welcome our moderator, Nancy Kaffer, columnist, Detroit Free Press, and our panelists, Miles Jones, co-chairman, Dawn Food Products, Florine Mark, president and CEO, Weight Watchers Group, and William Pickard, chairman and CEO, Global Automotive Alliance.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. We've got a great panel here, and I think we're going to have a wonderful conversation. When we think about big businesses like the ones that these guys run, we tend to forget that at one point they were small startups and that they've grown into these very, very large businesses. All three of my panelists here have made this journey from small startup to established giant business, and they're going to talk to us about how that happened and where they go from here and how things have changed. So let's get things started. If you each give just a brief introductory remark about who you are and what you do, we can get into some good conversation.
Well, I'm Miles Jones. I'm co-chairman of Dawn Food Products. We are a family-owned business. Started in 1920, so we're 94 years old now this year. And we've kind of morphed from what started out as a retail bakery, literally, that would now reside under 1 Jackson Square on Michigan Avenue in Jackson. And morphed from there to a manufacturer of bakery ingredients and on to also a distributor of bakery ingredients, first nationwide and then internationally. I work with some of my siblings. I work with nieces and nephews. I can't think of a better way that I could have spent the last 45 years of my career other than having fun in the food industry.
Florine?
Hi, I'm Florine Mark. I'm the president and CEO and chairman of the board of Weight Watchers. My claim to fame is I've lost 50 pounds and kept it off for 40 years. Started the business about 40 years ago. It's really evolved into so many things. And right now, one of our biggest departments in our business is Business Connect, where we go to businesses, big businesses, smaller ones like many that you have here, and we try to convince the presidents and the CEOs to take a better look and involvement with the health of their employees, not just building a fitness center. What we do at Weight Watchers is we change your relationship with food. We're cheap, we're inexpensive, that's not a good word, we're inexpensive. We don't give pills, there's no special foods, you can eat what you want, and you still will lose weight. And we hope that we will help people change their eating habits so that they will never gain the weight back again. And by doing that, we will lower healthcare costs, we will absolutely lower absenteeism, we'll make people more responsible for their jobs, and that's what we do when we go out to businesses to try to convince them that they're going to save a lot of money, especially on meds, if they can help their employees to really learn how to eat healthy. By the way, I'm the mother of 7 children. That's my most important thing.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Pickard, and my desire now is obviously to be her next poster boy. But my journey started in 1971 with the ownership of my first McDonald's restaurant here in the city of Detroit. And from that, there's a Chinese proverb that says, as one eats, the appetite becomes wetter. And I was fortunate enough to become a supplier in 1980-81. And today, I'm very happy to say we do some of the most innovative things in the area of automotive manufacturing, including our prize child, a fuel delivery system company that was built here in 1998-99 on the empowerment zone. And from that, we've been able to merge into newspapers and our ownership in the MGM casino. But most importantly, I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to acquire 5 historically black newspapers and save them for the next generation.
So each of you has described sorry. Each of you has described a pretty dramatic journey from a small bakery or a single fast food restaurant to much larger ventures. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you experienced along the way and what you had to do to persist and stay in business and grow to where you are now. Any of you can start if you'd like to jump in.
You know, when I started my business, I have a thing in business for the people that work for me. Everyone has had to have had a weight problem and gone to my classes and lost the weight, gone through maintenance, then go through training, and then come to work for us. So in the very beginning, even my administrative secretaries, my shipping clerks, everybody that works in my business has had a weight problem, so that they understand, because I believe a teacher can only tell and never teach unless they practice what they preach, and they love what they do because they're keeping their own weight off. But in the beginning, it was just me. I was the bookkeeper, I was the leader, I was the receptionist, I did the PR, I did the marketing, I did it all, and it was very difficult. Of course, I was very lucky. I had a mother and a father that helped me, and I had 6 aunts and uncles that helped me, and all the family did work in the business until eventually I started, and I had these 5 little kids at that time, and eventually I did things out of my home, I trained out of my home, and eventually I had people that lost weight and started to learn how to be leaders, and that's how my business grew. And then I grew that business. I started buying franchises, and I was in 14 states and 3 countries, from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and all the rest, and had about 8,000 people that worked for me who had lost weight and had kept it off, which was very, very important to me. And it was difficult in the beginning, but you know what? All of life is difficult. It's difficult being a human being, getting up in the morning, but you take one day at a time. That's what my philosophy is, one day at a time, and I know for today, I can do anything I want if I want to do it bad enough.
That's right. As a family-owned organization and not publicly traded, it's one of your biggest concerns when you are deciding to grow the organization is money and access to capital. And it's a terrific motivator. It's also a terrific disciplinarian. It's imperative that you manage your costs, know where your costs are, plan financially. Without that kind of discipline, first of all, you're not going to talk Matt or any of his colleagues into loaning you money, for starters. But number 2, you're not going to be able to pay it back if you don't. Sure. Over the years, we first started, when I started at Dawn in 1966, our sales were $2.6 million. And we had a staff of about 55 people. Over the years, we have morphed into now a global manufacturer and distributor of bakery ingredients. The sales much in excess of 2.6 million, approaching 2 billion at this point. We're manufacturing in manufacturing and distributing out of 50 different sites around the world, and doing business in over 100 countries. So it's been sometimes an exciting journey. Sometimes the excitement was good, sometimes it was bad. But it was always motivating, and it's been a real delight to work with my siblings and my sons as well, and many good friends that I've met along the way.
Well, my story probably is a reflection, not probably, it is a reflection of this great community, and indeed the overall push in America in the 70s and the 80s to assist African Americans and other minorities to get into business more aggressively. And I was very fortunate. I mean, this town had mentors for me like John Sagan at Ford Motor Company, Alan E. Swartz, Jim Nichols. Along the way, all of these people, Art Johnson, Dr. Francis Cornegay, and quickly, I had about 11 restaurants, and I said to a gentleman named Dr. Francis Cornegay, I would like to be an automotive supplier. And he said, you sure? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I'm going to take you to meet Mr. Henry Ford. And 3 months later, I was meeting with Mr. Ford. And a year later, I was an automotive supplier. So this community really gave birth to a lot of the African American enterprises that you see throughout America. And when we do that annualized 100 top black businesses, with all of our problems and all of our challenges in Michigan, we typically are 25 of those 100 companies, and that's because of what GM, Ford, and Chrysler did.
talked about the growing from a $2.6 million company to being a $2 billion company. Obviously, you have different problems at $2 million than you do at $2 billion. And I think it's sometimes difficult for entrepreneurs to make that transition from being the one who's hands-on doing everything in the business to being the one who's overseeing a multi-billion-dollar operation. Can you talk a little bit about how you personally kind of evolved from being basically the head of a startup to being in the current role? I mean, how did that process work for you?
Well, for the Jones family, I think the biggest ingredient, if you will, a little play on words there, for our success and our growth has been that we've been blessed to be surrounded by a cadre of extremely talented and smart food technicians and just experts in their own class. If it has to do with logistics, if it has to do with IT, any and all of those categories. We have what we call our Dawn Circle of Excellence, and it's got three components, people, products, and customers. And the people are at the top of that circle, and for good reason. Without the excellent people, we're over 4,000 strong now in the organization. Without a lot of the talent that they bring to the organization, we would not have been able to accommodate that growth and succeed.
I know, Florine, it can be difficult when you've started a business and it's your baby and you're used to doing everything and being a part of every process to step back and let other people come in and do those jobs that you feel like you owned. How did you balance that? As in your evolution as a CEO.
Well, I learned very, very quickly that a good president is someone who is a visionary, very, very important, and is a delegator, and lets people do their job, which is very important. I try to hire people that are smarter than I am. I let them do their job. I pay them very, very well. I treat them as part of my family. And I think that that's really important for you. You can't be an everything. You know, I'm Florine Mark, mother, family member, and businesswoman in that order. So I have to surround myself, as I think all good presidents do, with a great team. And we work by team in my organization. We have monthly meetings where the shipping clerk and the vice presidents, we all sit in the same meeting and we talk about how can we make our meetings better? What can we do? What innovations do we have? What's going on in the classroom? So everybody gets involved, and I think you have to get your people involved and give them responsibility and let them do their job.
At the same time, Bill, as you talk about getting into running a bigger company and how you have to step back a little bit, you still have to maintain that entrepreneurial drive. How do you, once you're not as hungry and and more comfortable in the business and more established, how do you stay, as our panel's called, how do you keep your edge? How do you keep that aggressive entrepreneurialism?
Well, I was very fortunate. My very first business was McDonald's restaurants. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing that McDonald's taught me, and most people in McDonald's, is hands-on and people. And I read early on that you manage things and you lead people. And much like Florine indicated, when we have our Monday morning call, I am probably the dumbest guy on the call because I try to hire bright people. And I understand that my role is to motivate and to lead and to follow up. But I think McDonald's taught me hands-on, and it taught me always try to have the best people. And I'm very proud of the fact that when I was an operator in Detroit area, I always had the best young men and young ladies that worked for me. And I think I've carried that over into all facets of my business. But now we probably have 3,000 employees. We do $500 million. And by the grace of God, one young man walked in as an intern 31 years ago named Sylvester Hester. He is now vice chair and chief operating officer. So I've been very fortunate that great people tend to give great results.
Absolutely. And so does hiring those young or younger, aggressive, bright people help you stay focused in terms of being entrepreneurial, even about a large established company?
I'm still involved in hiring at the leadership level. And I think there are only two kind of people in the world, winners and losers. And as a rule, I have been very blessed in my life to be able to discern the people that had leadership talent. And I love a quote by William Shakespeare. He said, for an example, that most of us know what we are, but we don't know what we can become. And for an example, a history buff, quickly, can you imagine what Edsel Ford said when he walked into President Roosevelt's office in 1940-41 and said, I'm going to give you a bomber every day? And Ford Motor Company had never built a plane. But Edsel knew something about himself that was able to propel that vision into actuality.
So there's a lot, it seems to me, more competition in almost every field, in each of your fields. Florine, you were kind of the original deal here, and now you have a couple of companies that are just a few companies that compete with you. How have you stayed ahead? How have you stayed competitive as folks popped up to try to catch up with you?
Well, I think competition is very good. And we're different from our competition, the Jenny Craigs and the others, the Nutrisystems. We don't sell food, and we don't do one-on-one, and we don't charge a lot of money. And we try to change your relationship with food. And we go after big businesses, try to go after businesses and encourage them to really get involved, as I said before, with their employees. Like you spoke about Ford. I have to tell you that 1,500 Ford employees go to Weight Watchers. We go right to the plant, and we have classes right there for them. And they pay, Ford Motor Company pays 100%. Ford Motor and the union pay for their employees to go to Weight Watchers. HAP Insurance pays for their you can go to Weight Watchers for 12 weeks for $25 if you're a HAP member, and HAP picks up the rest of the fee. And I want to tell you, HAP has told us the first year 16,000 people joined, and they lost, I don't know, tons of weight. And after paying us and paying all the bills, they still saved over $1 million in healthcare costs because meds go down, diabetes, stroke, all the medications you're taking, less absenteeism, as I said before. So, you know, we do different than our competition. We have the apps. We're very innovative. We are on the internet. I'm a blog, and I'm on Facebook, and anything we can talk to each other. And by the way, I answer my own phone if I'm in the office. I don't have a machine that says, hold, you're on this button or this button. That doesn't go on in my office. And we treat people as we want people to treat ourselves. So we're always looking for better ways to make our classroom better and make it different. We have Wi-Fi, we have coffee, we've recently put couches in. We looked at Starbucks and said, what are all these people doing at Starbucks? You know, and paying all this great money for, I buy tea for a cup of water with a tea bag in it for $2.75, and it's all filled. Every Starbucks is filled. How do we do that at Weight Watchers? So we put in couches, and we put in chairs, and we serve coffee, and we do everything we can to make it easy. Dieting is not easy. It's a commitment. It's really hard. It's not like selling a washing machine. You have to get these people...
With all due respect to washing machine
with all
salesmen.
due respect, you know, it'd be a lot easier if I could be in the washing machine business. I'll tell you, it's very difficult to motivate people to really become healthier on a day-to-day basis. We all eat because of anxiety. You know, we're stressed out, we're nervous, we're happy, we're unhappy, whatever, and comfort food kind of makes us better, and we have a habit of doing that. And what we have to do is we try to change people's habits so that when these days come up and these times come up, you know how to handle it without going for, I was going to say McDonald's, but I didn't. Honest to God, I didn't. Without going for all the garbage food or the food that you know.
I was going to ask if seating Florine next to
No, come back. I love you dearly. And I go to McDonald's, and you're you're having healthier food there. So any Weight Watcher can eat at McDonald's. But
Florine, you'll be
I better stop. Go on, next.
you'll be happy to know that we have a Weight Watchers chapter in our home offices in Jackson.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. You're
As
doing
well,
something for your employees.
we also manufacture a line of Weight Watchers products.
Fabulous.
I was going to ask when we sat down and Bill started talking about his background if they were going to fight, but so speaking of food, Miles, we have obviously a cultural obsession with food now. We've got cooking shows, we've got organic and locally. Everybody's very. How do you? It also seems like that our tastes change. This probably keeps you up at night every 5 minutes as to what people want food. How do you stay on top of that and stay relevant and offer the products that people are looking for?
Well, the first thing you do is talk to the people. You can't innovate, you can't create for your customers if you're not in touch with your customers and in close touch. There have been many, many fine companies, in my opinion, over the years that went out of business because they forgot who their customers were. And I can remember years ago, just after I started, my father sat the three brothers down and he said, look, at the end of every day, you better be sure that you can tell me that you've been working on what it is our customers are going to be willing to pay you for. And after Jeff Fettig's remarks this morning, I would say not only what the customers are willing to pay you for today, but what are they going to be willing to pay you for tomorrow.
So we just have a few minutes left here. Does each of you have a final thought you want to leave entrepreneurs with who are trying to get where you are, or even CEOs who are in your position but maybe looking for some inspiration as to how to keep going?
I'd say what Bill said and what Florine has said as well. The secret, as far as I'm concerned, is attract and hire bright people, brilliant people, experienced people, and then get the heck out of their way.
Well, I think what you have to do is you have to love whatever you're doing. You have to love your product, love your service. Wake up every day. I wake up today just even more in love with what I'm doing than I did 40 years ago when I started my business. And I think that's extremely important. If you don't like what you're doing, get out. But learn, and if you can learn to love what you're doing, then learn to love it, because if you have that excitement and an enthusiasm and that joy of life every single day, you're going to be a success. Believe in yourself, too.
Well, obviously, I have been very blessed by being in this environment of Michigan. And my request would be very simple, that even though we now find ourselves in a global world with global competition, take some time to be inclusive in our lives and our business, because I believe there are a lot of women and young African Americans and Hispanics and others who have the same God-given talent that all of us have. They simply need an opportunity. And I hope in all of our revitalization of this area that we take a moment to be inclusive.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today. I know I'm going to go backstage and try to figure out how many calories were in the coffee I had while we were waiting for our panel. Probably write it down somewhere. Thank you so much, these talented, wonderful people, for being here with us today, and thanks all of you for being a great audience. So.